Welcome, 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 everybody, to another Sunday of When Black Women Gather. I'm Helen Higginbotham, and I am here today with Miss DeWan Jackson Clayton. Let me add her to our spotlight. And hi, DeWan.
Hey, Helen, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Today, we're going to talk about Alzheimer's and dementia. And I called this segment Facing Alzheimer's because it's a reality for all of us, one way or another. Either we're afraid, let me speak for myself, afraid of it becoming our next venture in life, right? So it's either going to be an issue for us or it's going to be an issue for those of us who are caregivers. And I know that many people on this call are caregivers. So we're going to listen to DeWan talk to us about Alzheimer's and dementia. I have to tell you that she came and spoke at my job, and I was so impressed with her delivery. And I appreciated that she was a Black woman. And I invited her here to talk to us from that perspective. And not that there's anything, I guess there are some nuances to us being Black women and how we're affected by So she's going to talk about that. But excuse me, DeWan is a licensed clinical social worker. She's a MSW. She works for a health organization here in South Florida, and she does volunteer work with the Palm Beach County Alzheimer's Association. And I am going to turn it over to her, and she will tell us, do you want to go through your presentation and then take questions, or do you want people to interact with you throughout the presentation? It's entirely up to you.
I'm an interactor. So first, I need to apologize to everyone. I am under the weather. So we got a little nasally stuff going on, but I promised Helen that I would give this presentation. And since I didn't have to go anywhere, I just had to just come to my living room. I'm gonna get through it. So please just I apologize for my voice. So if I'm stopping drinking, maybe doing a little bit of this, just bear with me. But we're still gonna get through it.
No problem.
As Helen
you
said,
doing it.
this isn't a big group. So if you all want to either raise your hands or put questions in the chat, Helen, I would just ask if you can monitor the chat, because as I'm in my presentation, I can't see it.
Okay.
I can definitely take questions. And we'll just get started. Thank you again, Helen, for inviting me. Thank you for recognizing that this is a big issue with everyone, but especially as it relates to, African Americans. I'll talk a little bit more about that, and us being women, we're a little bit more susceptible to some things. So as I go through my presentation, I definitely will talk about that. At the end, if there are any additional questions that maybe I did not hit in my presentation, you're more than welcome to come off mute and let's just have a discussion. I don't want you to think that we have to stick with what's here, because I get a lot of questions, and I do this for a living, and if it's something I don't know, I'll get back with you. But I should be okay. So we're just going to get started. It's about a 30-minute presentation. Like I said, we can do Q&A in between and then also at the end.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go off screen and leave it all up to you.
Okay. I would just ask if everyone could make sure that they're
muted.
Their mics are muted, please.
Right. Please mute everybody. Okay.
Someone is unmuted. I hear TV. Okay, I think we're there. So again, Helen gave you a little bit about what I do. I actually am the licensed clinical social worker and memory disorder clinic coordinator at Palm Beach Neuroscience Institute. We are one of 17 memory disorder clinics funded by the Department of Elder Affairs in the state of Florida. Florida has done a great job as relating to being preventative as it relates to Alzheimer's disease and other related dementias. So here in my county in Palm Beach, we actually have 2 clinics, my clinic, and then there's another clinic in the South, but we all do the same work. There is a lot of work here in Florida that I am very proud of and proud to be a part of. So I always get this question, and I know we have ladies from other states. Does my state have this? I don't know. However, We definitely can talk offline. And if I find out where you are, to see if I can kind of maybe direct you to someone in your state that can let you know if they have anything like we have here in Palm Beach County. And if they don't, it would be a good thing to kind of try to get it in your state. So we're just going to get started. Today, we're going to be talking about effective communication strategies. And by the end of this program, I want you all to be able to explain the communication changes that take place throughout the course of the disease, decode verbal and behavioral messages delivered by someone with dementia, and be able to respond in ways that are helpful. Identify strategies to connect and communicate at any stage of the disease. So communication is more than just talking and listening. It's also about sending and receiving messages through our attitude, our tones, our facial expressions, body language. Communication is the way that we express to each other and how we relate to each other. So with Alzheimer's disease, we all know that it is a progressive disease. And when someone is affected with Alzheimer's disease, the way that we typically communicate, they lose those abilities. So we have to come up with different strategies to still be able to have that communication with someone that has an Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia. So I'm just going to kind of briefly just go through what Alzheimer's disease is through the different stages. As I stated, if you have questions, please stick them in the chat and we'll get them answered. Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, it is a progressive disease, and people do use their ability to communicate their thoughts and their feelings through words. They also will lose their ability to be able to understand what someone is saying to them. One thing that I always stress is that even though the person may be losing their ability to communicate with you or understanding what you're saying and not be able to express themselves, they still are themselves. They still maintain that sense of self throughout the disease process. So this basically means that the elements and the characteristics of that person is still there. They're still their person. They're their person with the disease and the process of the disease. I like to always bring that up is because a lot of people, when they are dealing with someone that has the disease, they sometimes forget that it's still mom, it's still dad, it's still your brother, it's still your sister. They still maintain that sense of self. And we should be doing whatever we need to do to continue to be communicative with them in any way that we can. So throughout all of these different stages, the 5 senses are going to be very important as it relates to communicate with someone. And as we go through each stage, I will break down those 5 senses and things that you all can do to make sure that you stay connected. So in the early stage, you may not notice any changes in the way a person communicates. For some people, there may be shifts in their ease of words, being able to maybe in a conversation find words as they're speaking or forget about what they're saying. We do get a lot of people that come into our clinic at the early stage, the mild stage. That's where I actually like to get them, or if not before. And you may not really notice any difference. This person may still be independent. They may still be able to do everything they've been doing. We have people that are still working, they're still functioning, they're still driving, they're still able to live independently. So a lot of things that they were able to do, but just are starting to have small changes. As I stated, some of the first things that I will get in the clinic is that they're realizing that they're having difficult time finding the right words. They may be taking a little bit longer to respond, withdrawing for conversations, struggling with decisions and decision-making problems, reacting more emotionally than in the past, and avoiding certain discussions. So whether you've noticed changes in the way that a person speaks, communication is always going to still be crucial. This is definitely the period where if we notice that we have someone that has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and they are in this mild stage, to keep that communication open. You just think about the person who realizes that, wow, I now have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We all know that there is no cure for Alzheimer's, so they're going through a lot of different emotions. Then if you flip to the other side, you may have a caregiver or a care partner who is having their own feelings and emotions. So it's very important that during this early stage that communication stays open and everyone is really expressing how they are feeling. It is typical and sometimes normal for the person to deny or just be in denial that there is something going on with their memory. And it may take them a little bit to come to terms with it. That's why I say keep communication open so that everyone can understand what everyone is thinking and feeling and just really be a support. Communicating through this process will also bring closeness with the person with the disease and also the caregiver or care partner. So one of the best ways to be sure you are offering the help with communication is speak directly to the person. Remember I said, this person is still their sense of self. I've seen it too many times where we have caregivers or care partners where they are speaking either over them, through them, around them, but not speaking directly to them. They're still there. They're still here. They just have Alzheimer's disease. So it's very important to speak directly to them. Your speaking to them needs to be direct. You want to be straightforward. You want to say things to them that are not over their head, meaning you don't want to give them a dissertation. You want to be very short, very concise, and very to the point, because as we stated, their brains are battling with this disease, so their processing and other things are different than yours. Avoid making long explanations and take cues from the person. If you're having a conversation with someone and you can see that they're starting to get agitated and they're just not feeling the conversation, don't continue the conversation. Go ahead and stop it. Pay attention to the person's, a lot of things they may be saying to you that's not verbal. It may be a lot of nonverbal. Allowing a person extra time to speak or in a conversation is going to be very important. You don't want them to feel pressured or rush. I do have a lot of times when I'm working with my families, I tell them that if you're having a conversation, the first thing you want to do is you want to speak with your loved one and say, okay, if you're struggling, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to jump in and automatically give you the information? Do you want me to give you that time? Have that conversation. I always like to have a small balance in between. We found that a lot of our caregivers or care partners will automatically just jump in and answer questions and not allowing the person to utilize their brain to kind of think about what they want to say. And then that person, what I kind of term lazy brain, they would get lazy. So I see it happen all the time when I get people that come into my clinic and I'm doing their interviews and we're just understanding more about them. When I ask the patient a question, the first thing they'll do is they'll look to the side. So that lets me know already that they're already 100% relying on that other person to answer the question. So we got to have a small balance. We don't want them to struggle, but we also want them to try to utilize their brain cells to be able to answer any questions or think about any answers that they may possibly have. You always want to be sure to include the person in any conversation. If they are able to respond, if they're able to give you their wants and wishes, include them in the conversation. Excluding them is not going to be beneficial from them in the long run, because if you're having conversations, you're making certain decisions and they find out about it, well, they're going to be, well, why didn't you talk to me about it? So include them in the conversation. Don't make assumptions about a person's ability to communicate just because they do have an Alzheimer's diagnosis. The disease affects each person differently. Again, you want to always speak directly to them. You want to explore which methods are comfortable to them, because as I stated, the disease process is different from other people, from person to person. So just because you may do things one way with one patient, it may not be the same with the other patient. So you have to ask questions, and you just have to be very keen and paying attention to what works for that loved one. Sometimes communication may not just be verbal. It may be a person may want to, especially if you're giving them some information, they may want you to email them. They may want you to send a text message where they may be able to go back, look at it, process it, take their time. So there are a lot of different ways for us to communicate. You just have to figure out which one is the right way. And it's okay to laugh. Laughter is, I think, one of the best natural medicines that God gave us. So it is okay to laugh. It lightens the mood. There are going to be some times, I think I heard someone say earlier when we were waiting about, a little joke about me forgetting something. In our clinic, because of the work that we do, we laugh a lot. We have to keep us kind of centered and grounded, because we work with so many people, and Alzheimer's is it's a deadly disease. And just to see our patients maybe starting from an earlier stage and progressing through, that we have to keep laughter. I mean, I even laugh and joke with my patients sometimes. So laughter is very good. You always want to be honest about your feelings. Don't lie. Just think about a care partner. You may be feeling some way, but think about the person that's actually dealing with the disease. They know that they're not how they used to be. They have all these thoughts and their feelings. So just be honest and open about your feelings. So many changes may occur in the middle stage. The middle stage of the disease is the longest stage. So you will start to see significant changes from that mild into that middle stage. And just for you to know that it's not really a cookie cutter. A lot of people, I get this question, they'll say, well, how long is the first stage? How long is the middle stage? How long is the last stage? There's no exact time frame. It's not to say you're going to be in the mild stage for 2 months and you're going to be in the middle stage for 3 months. We do know that the mid stage is the longest stage. And there are some times where you may be having a person that's kind of overlapping, where they may be mild, middle, or middle severe. So every person is different. So if you've noticed some changes in the early stages, they are likely to become more pronounced in this middle stage. Some of the changes that you may notice are listed here, possibly on the slide. Increased difficulties with finding the right words, using familiar words, being very repetitive with questioning, and also just forgetting conversations and asking those questions over and over. Inventing new words to describe things. Like, for example, instead of saying that's a clock or a watch, when we're talking about a watch, they would say, oh, that's a hand clock. Instead of saying that's a chair, you would say, okay, the thing you sit in. So they're not understanding or being able to bring up the words of particular items, so they kind of make things up. Losing their train of thought, speaking less often, because if you think about a person who is losing their ability to have the right words, think about the right words, being able to speak, they start to withdraw. So that is something big that we will see in the middle stage. Communication through behavior rather than words definitely increases in this stage, because they're not able to verbally tell you what's going on. So I always like to tell my caregivers that if you are having your loved one and they're showing you a behavior, they're trying to tell you something. You just got to figure out what they're trying to tell you. Some other things that may occur is a difficulty in organizing words logically, reverting to speaking to your native language. I've had clients come in my office who originally were Spanish speaking, of course, now in English. Now, since the disease has progressed, they no longer know English. They're going back to Spanish. Difficulty following conversations, watching TV, not being able to follow what's going on in the program, and being able to let you know what happened in conversations or programs. The changes in the brain make tracking and decoding words more difficult in this stage. So for that reason, people begin to use behavior to communicate more often in the middle stage of the disease. So now we're going to go into some adjustments that you all can be making with your loved one. Remember, you have to make those adjustments, not them. And I also want to make note that medical conditions definitely can play a part in behaviors. If there is a sudden change, a dramatic change in someone's behavior, I always say consult doctor. And the first thing we want to look at, especially in older adults, are urinary tract infections. Urinary tract infections in older adults can have a significant quick change in behavior. So if there is any quick changes, I always say, hey, does the person have a UTI? Anytime we get those, I get those calls. That's some of the first thing I will tell people. Have you checked to see if they have a urinary tract infection? So when communicating with a person in the middle stage, approach the person gently. You always want to identify yourself. You want to stay eye level, and you want to from the front. You want to call that person by name, and you just want to let them know who you are. Even though you know that you may be that person's daughter, they may not remember. So for example, you would go, hi, Dad, it's Dwan, your daughter. You always just want to give them that introduction. You don't want to be like, oh, well, they should remember. they have a disease, and the part of the disease process is that they're forgetting. So remember, I stated, you're the one that needs to make those changes and adjustments, not them. Using touch is can be very beneficial. So as I'm coming and I'm saying, hi, Dad, it's me, Dwan, maybe touching him on the shoulder, touching on the hand, just to let him know that, hey, I'm here. It's a safe place and a safe space. You don't ever want to criticize, correct, or impose your perspective. It's going to backfire on you. So the biggest thing that I can tell you, and I work with a lot of caregivers, you will not be able to tell your loved one that what they're thinking and what they're feeling is not correct. So for example, they can be telling you that the sky is gold. You and I know the sky is not gold, but if they say the sky is gold, guess what? The sky is gold, because you're going to spend more time trying to convince them that the sky is not gold, but they have a degenerative disease that affects their memory, their thinking. So why would you even go into that argument? If the sky is gold, okay, Dad, the sky is gold, keep it moving. Why try to agitate the person? Because then you're going to be dealing with a totally different incident trying to calm them down. Always you want to remember to take the time to communicate. Give yourself and the person time. You don't want to be doing what I call those fly-by-night communications. If you need to have a conversation, we're able to move a little bit faster, but the person with Alzheimer's disease is not. So if you do need to talk to them, you do need to have conversations, take the time to do it. If you know that you only have 5 minutes, but it's something you kind of want to talk about, maybe that time is not the right time. Joining the person's reality is going to be very important for you. Just keep in mind that gold sky. When you take a little time to see the world from their perspective, it's going to allow you a little bit of understanding. Their behaviors, their thoughts, their feelings, you have to remember, they're the ones with the disease. They're the ones that realize that they're not how they used to be. They know all of this. So joining their reality is definitely going to help you be able to understand them a little bit better. Due to the changes in the brain that accompany the disease, it does not, the person's perspective is probably going to be a little bit different than yours, and that's okay. But if you're joining their reality, it definitely avoids a lot of conflict. So what you want to do is you want to listen and figure out what the person wants. If they are able to verbally tell you, that's great. Sometimes they may be doing cues and clues, kind of pay attention to that. So it means paying attention to those words and also behaviors. Keep in mind that the person sometimes may be trying to express the feelings and the needs, but may not be able to verbally tell you. So being able to pay attention to behaviors, probably things that happened maybe before, or things that are going on, just being, I like to say, being a small detective and paying attention to the total environment. You want to let the person know that you understand what they may or may not be feeling. You can express this through words, behaviors, or both. You want to answer questions and address any issue that comes up. Remember, answering those questions, you want to be brief and to the point and concise. You don't want to be very long-winded dissertation, because they're only able to take in only so much of what you're saying. So you want to be very short, brief, and concise. Most importantly, respond to the emotions behind the behavior. So for example, if a person is communicating with words, you might say, "You seem sad. Do you feel sad?" And wait for a response. If the person says yes, you may want to try to guess or figure out why they're feeling sad. And just having, open-ended conversations. You may want to add, do you miss the way things used to be? Are you missing this? Are you missing that? But just asking open-ended questions to possibly try to understand why the person is feeling sad. And if communicating with a person, dealing with the behavior, you may be able to identify and speak about the emotions behind the behavior. Let's say if a person maybe is rummaging through their possessions, it might be a way that they may be communicating that they're bored. If they're hitting things, they might be during the bath time, that may be something to tell you, like, okay, they may not be feeling this bath time. So we may have to kind of readjust and figure other things out. So behaviors are always telling us something. finally, you definitely want to be able to reassure and redirect the person. If you do have a person that's becoming agitated, that is showing these type of behaviors, want to always make sure that they know that they're safe and then redirect to something else. Your goal is to always keep them calm. So keep it slow and basic. You want to take your time and be patient when you communicate. The more you slow down, the less resistance you will encounter from a person, because the person is not going to be feeling rushed. Rushing leaves the person feels frustrated, inadequate, and upset because they're not able to connect and understand what you're saying because you're going so fast. Use the short sentences, be clear, and be concise. So I can give an example here. So instead of saying, what would you like for breakfast? That's very open-ended. Instead, say, hey, Mom, I'm fixing breakfast. Would you like oatmeal or would you like eggs? See the big difference in saying what you want for breakfast? It's so many options. They may not be able to grasp it, but by giving them a choice between oatmeal and eggs, that kind of brings things down, and the communication will be a little bit easier. Giving multiple cues is going to be very important. It's helpful to give a person as many cues as you can when you're communicating. This reinforces your words and clarifies your messages. Providing visual cues and gestures, certain gestures and movements, you kind of want to make sure everything is kind of slow, excuse me, and not rushed. Writing things down for the person, if they're at a place where they can still utilize notes and calendars and labels, any of that is always very helpful. Labeling photographs, if it's a family members, if you notice that they're having difficulty maybe remembering names, putting their names on photographs, anything you can do to kind of give them those visual cues and clues is always going to be helpful. You want to offer answers in your questions. It's much easier for someone in the middle stage to choose what they want for lunch, for example, with open-ended. I kind of already talked about that. You always want to keep everything short, clear, and concise, and definitely avoid quizzing.
Dewan, here's a question somebody wants to know. Does it help if they're having a problem finding their words? Does it help to put things in writing as opposed to trying to verbalize it?
Yes, it definitely can. I always say it does vary from person to person, but I talked about it a little bit earlier. I know that I had a client who came into the clinic, and she used to express that just having conversations with her family was very confusing to her. So what her family ended up doing, they still would have those verbal conversations, but then they would follow up with what they talked about in an email or a text message so that she would be able to kind of go through and read it. And she did say that that helped her out a little bit because it gave her the opportunity to process the information, and it doesn't seem rushed. So yes, writing things down definitely can help. Thank you, Helen. I'm going to say this to you. You're going to repeat information, not once, not twice, but maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20 times. That's just what it is. It's a disease process that affects their memory. So they are going to forget. So even though it may be frustrating for you as the caregiver, just be prepared to repeat the information. Judy, I see that you raised your hand.
Yes. So I was the one who put that question in, and I actually was asking if the person who is having the memory problem, is it easier for them to find the words and them write it down, not the caregiver?
That depends upon the person. Because think about if verbally they're having a tough time verbally expressing it, them writing it down, they may still have that same time trying to come up with the words. So whether it's being verbally spoken or writing down, they still may have the difficulty finding the right word.
Oh, okay. I just thought maybe we're using different parts of the brain to do the writing. Okay, thank you.
No, all the same. And I see there's another hand, but I can't see who it is. I think Tracy.
Sorry, Judy, I messed up your question. Tracy, go ahead. Is it Tracy? Why can't I?
Yeah, I see Tracy Gibson.
Yes, it's me. I had a question about driving. My husband has Alzheimer's, and he still drives. But I've noticed when we're in the car together, sometimes he'll say to me, babe, let me know when I get to the 405, but he's already on the 405. And I don't know if this is a point where I should not let him drive anymore, or should I just help him along the way with that?
Tracy, can I put driving to my Q&A at the end?
Yes.
Okay, I just wrote it down, so we will definitely get to it. But thank you for the question.
Thank you.
I don't think any other hands. Okay, so you want to turn negatives into positives. So, for example, if you need to get the person into a shower, and you know that there's been difficulty when it comes to bath time, they're kind of acting out. You may want to be like, Mom, your granddaughter Sue is coming to visit. Let's go ahead and get cleaned up so that we'll be ready when she gets there. Some things like that can possibly help bath time. The caregiver, I will tell you, has to be very creative. It is what it is. Your goal is to always keep a person calm, and you don't want to agitate them. You want them to be have a feeling that they're safe, because they're dealing with the disease process, not you. So all the adjustments is always going to come from our side.
It's funny that you use that example. I don't know if I should say babysat. I took care of a friend, a very good friend. Her brother was her caretaker, and I used to tell them, hey, if you guys ever want a break, just let me know. I'll come. Lord Jesus, it was the longest 4 days of my life. And bath time was a problem. She resorted right back to child behavior, sat in the middle of the floor. I was just like, oh my God. And, and so I knew instantly what her brother, who was also, elderly, but yeah, I didn't handle that well. I didn't know what to do, because she was a grown woman. There was a kid, you would just pick him up, put him in the tub, and that's it. And I just let her sit there until she was ready to get into the tub. That was hard.
Yes. I believe it or not, bath time is a big one for a lot of my caregivers and care partners. They do have a lot of difficulties as it relates to their loved ones with bath time. So that is not unusual. And your response to it actually was pretty good.
Yvette is saying she understands that they become afraid of water. Is that true?
Not necessarily afraid of water. There could be a lot of different things going. The biggest deal is when someone is having Alzheimer's, a lot of the brain processes, but there's also a visual spatial issue. So you got to understand the depth perception. So when they see the water, they may be seeing something else.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You always want to respond empathetically and with reassurance. You want to let the person know that you're there and that you're listening. The facts, I will tell you this, and I will repeat this so many times. The facts are far less important. And I have to say this to my caregiver. Who cares? It doesn't matter, because you need to be in their world. Yes, you may know that what he or she is saying is not true, but in this case, it doesn't matter, because you need to be in their world. You're seeing it from their perspective, and their feelings and how they feel about the situation are more important. So if you could just remember, facts are far less important, and just focus on those feelings at that point in time, then that is that is what you want to do. And it's so funny that I say this, because I'm also in private practice. So when I'm teaching communication, of course, people that don't have Alzheimer's, it's opposite. We want to look at the facts first. So in this case, it's opposite. Feelings are more important with that person. Facts are less important. So in your late stages, this is when we're going to start to talk a little bit more about those 5 senses in a way for you to continue to connect. Even though your loved one may be using few words, the communication and the still needing to connect must still be there. So we're going to have to come up with ways for us to continue to connect. Remember that the person is still an adult. There's still the sense of self, and you want to continue to provide that reassurance. You're talking with them, you can use, if they have favorite books, they have favorite poems, things that you can use that they've always enjoyed, you can have that. Just hearing your voice definitely is soothing. And I'm going to go now into the 5 senses on different ways that you all can connect with someone in the severe stage. So through touch, using different fabrics, having them identify certain shapes, hand lotions, identifying everyday items. We talked about, naming things and labeling them. If you all have animals, here in Florida, we had a very amazing project where we provided stuffed animals, robotic animals for our patients that were dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. So they were able to get a robotic cat or robotic dog. That program went off so well. I had a lot of my patients that we were able to get those for them just to be able to have that and touch it. And I believe they did kind of maybe do like a meow and a roof sound. So that's something that you all can do as far as touch as well. Holding a person's hand, stroking a person's hand, touch is also very important, skin to skin with loved ones. For sight, you can be laminating colored pictures, watching videos of animals, travel, and nature, looking at old photo albums, viewing photos of, if they're into paintings and things that they may possibly into. If they love nature, going to zoos, being outside, just in nature, painting, watercolors, things like that. All of that is good for sight. Music, also with that program I talked about, we also provided MP3 players, and it had different genres that people could select from. So, if you have big band, jazz, all of that type of stuff. If they love music, music is very, very calming. So bringing music into it, listening to, recordings of nature, farm animals, baby crying, listening to songs and speeches, maybe in their native languages, is good. Reading to them, if they have, again, a favorite book, favorite poems, all of that is good. Reading the newspaper. I have a caregiver that she reads the newspaper to her husband every day. That's something he always did, so she's continuing to do that. She reads it to him every day. Through smell. Smell is very important. You could be using herbs and spices. If you, so let's say they had a favorite dish that they like, using cooking, you could you can get cotton balls, you can dip them like in essential oils and just have them smell it. Coffees and teas, if they have a certain fragrance that they possibly may like, you can, use the lotions and kind of rub it on them. So all of that is good as a way to connect through smell. Through taste, we're talking about cooking. So, their favorite food. You definitely want to be careful, because most people that are in the later stages do have difficulty with swallowing. So definitely making sure, if we're using foods, that it's foods that they can easily swallow. Popsicles, ice creams and puddings, their favorite drinks. Something else when we talked about through sight, I had a client of mine who every year they used to go to, I think it was Italy. Well, we got to a certain point in time where they could no longer travel to Italy. YouTube is a great tool that I highly recommend for all of my caregivers. What his wife used to do, she used to go in there, used to put travel to Italy, and he used to sit there and he just used to watch. And he used to be like, and he could, oh yes, I remember that. And I remember going there. So it kept him connected to what his travelings to Italy every year. So there are a lot of different creative ways that you can use these 5 senses to keep connected with the person. So to summarize, maximizing our communication and connecting with a person with dementia adheres to a few principles. You want to be able to understand what it is and what that person is not saying to you. You want to make sure you're understanding the disease process. We hit driving. We're going to talk about driving a little bit after this. Knowing and accepting cognitive functions and their limitations, what that person is capable of doing at that point in time. Paying attention to their behaviors, not just what they're saying. Remembering that the person is an adult and they still are a sense of themselves and should always be respected. And remember to use the feelings to connect. Your tone, your pitch, how fast you're moving, all of that plays in into effect as relating to being able to effectively communicate with someone that has Alzheimer's. This here is just other ways that you all can gather additional information. The Alzheimer's Association has a lot of great resources on their website. Their 800 24/7 number, 800-272-3900. They're master level clinicians as myself, 24/7, 7 days a week. They speak over 300 languages. One of the things that I do love about the resources that they have there is they have the Care Connect. So I do know, I think I saw someone on here, I think I saw Brooklyn. So I'm in South Florida. Of course, I don't know your resources in Brooklyn, but going to this website here, you can type in Brooklyn or you can type in your zip code, and it can also find you actual resources in your community. So I do love this resource that I do provide to everyone. Other ways that you can get involved, clinical trials. So I don't have to give all of us the history as relates to, you know, our people and things that have happened as relates to medicine and clinical trials. But what I will tell you is that as long as I've been doing this work, and I've been doing this work in Alzheimer's since 2017, the biggest thing that I'm constantly seeing is that we do not have, someone wrote on my PowerPoint. Oh, well, y'all still, you can still see it. We do not have enough African Americans getting involved in clinical trials. Something I didn't realize until I got into healthcare is that even though we are people, but our DNA is different. There are some medications that may have been tried on whites, may not work on us. So it's very important for us to get involved in clinical trials, and not just the clinical trials for someone that may be having the disease. There are a lot of clinical trials for people that are healthy. The Alzheimer's Association has this free trial match service. So if anyone is interested, you can go online, sign up, and they can actually match you with clinical trials that that can help with a lot of different things. Like I stated, it's not just for people that are actually dealing with the disease. And here again is the 800 number, 800-272-3900. And this is my information. Let me stop sharing my screen and come back in to see if that.
Yeah, who scratched on your thing?
Yeah, I think I saw someone did something by, here we go, it's gone. And here's my contact information. You all are more than welcome to screenshot this. Even though I may not be in your area, I am more than willing to answer any questions offline, via email, via telephone. So you definitely can reach out to me. So
there was a question about showers.
Okay.
What did they say? That Anita, is that your question about the shower? Who said their mom?
Yes, that was my question.
Can you go ahead and ask that?
I have difficulty during shower time. I put a heater in the room. I wrap towels around her shoulder. The water is, can't get any warmer. I will pass out if it's any hotter in the room. And she's still like screaming that she's freezing. So I don't know if you had any suggestions on how I could, handle that and make it a little easier.
I would maybe and go back to an old school thing, not put her in the bathtub anymore. Maybe try to do sink wash offs, or maybe bringing something into the bedroom and maybe washing her off that way. Because if she is adamantly telling you she doesn't want to go in the bathroom, you're going to continue to have that battle. So remember I talked about us having to modify and change certain things. And I got my speaker view, so I don't know who I'm talking to, so I'm looking all over. So you're going to have to modify how you do certain things, especially if she's adamantly every time she's telling you that.
Yeah, she's like saying that she's freezing. And could I just say one more thing? I just recently signed up for a clinical trial. Last week, I went for the memory test.
I'm gonna get into that too.
Yeah. However, now I can move on to getting an MRI and a PET scan, and I think I'm going to do that. It's scary, but I want to know, in advance if they see any kind of changes.
Okay. So let's since you mentioned memory testing, don't worry, I'm going to get to driving. So a lot of people, and I get this all the time. Well, why do I want to know? Well, there are a lot of reasons why you want to know. We do understand that there is no excuse my cat, everybody. We do understand that there is no no cure, but there are a lot of different things that if you catch it early enough, you might be able to get into clinical trials. There are a lot of there's a new medication that was just FDA approved that we're now starting to use into our clinic. We actually also have in my clinic, we have a clinical trial that is, we use focused ultrasound. My medical director, not only is he a memory disorder clinic specialist, he's also a movement and Parkinson's specialist. So they had a very good clinical trial where with Parkinson's, where they use focused ultrasound. And they, what they did was with the focused ultrasound, it opened up the blood-brain barrier. So it was a great clinical trial there. So what they decided to do was move it over to Alzheimer's disease. So the premise is that with this focused ultrasound, it beams in there, opens up the blood-brain barrier, and any amyloid that may be in the brain seeps out. So it's very early, but he's excited about it. He has me excited about it. So as we continue to go, so there are a lot of reasons to want to know. So when we talk about memory testing, and I forgot who was just speaking, but she said that she's involved in a clinical trial. With her being in the clinical trial, the memory testing that she is dealing with is a PET, amyloid PET. Amyloid PET scans usually they're $5,000 out of pocket, so we really don't recommend those because the treatment of it is not going to change. Because she's involved in a clinical trial, that's how she's able to get that amyloid PET testing. So before we even go there, the first thing everyone should be doing, if you're at least 35, at the latest 40, you need to be getting a memory assessment every year. Memory, we give them in our clinic all the time. So if you're in my area, give me a call. Matter of fact, you don't have to be in my area. I'll do them virtually. I had to modify when COVID came to continue to give my memory assessments, but it's about a 20-minute assessment. And what it does is we use a screening tool called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. There are a lot of memory assessments out there, but this one here, we use this one because it's more sensitive to the different domains of cognitive functioning. Every year, just like we go and we get tested for high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, everything. This should also be in your yearly examination because you should be knowing.
Starting at what age?
I would say at least 35 because early onset dementia can start 35.
Anita, how did you become involved or get information around a clinical trial?
I guess because I was raising money for Alzheimer's, and so I started receiving all this information, and it's in Princeton, New Jersey, and I called them up and I asked if I could come in, and they told me yes, and they told me the same, I can come every year, and I just wanted to get a baseline, but yeah. I'll look up the information. I'll share it if anyone wants it too.
Yeah, and it sounds like with you, because you are going for the clinical trial piece, you are that's how you're, like I said, able to get that amyloid PET. Right. But for the average person who may not even be interested in a clinical trial, you don't have to go through a clinical trial to get a memory assessment. Someone asked me a question. The screening tool that I use is called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. So I'm gonna let you know, ladies, don't go Google it. No, you cannot give it to yourself. It doesn't work that way. No, your friend can't give it to you. It doesn't work that way. You can Google it, but you can't give it to yourself. And I saw another quick question someone asked me.
So let me ask you, as we're talking about this memory test, are there signs that we can look for? And somebody asked the question, is it hereditary? So if our parents have it or does it skip a generation? Are we seeing patterns? Anita, did you have any more questions? Otherwise, I'll take you. You just want to hang out with us. It's cool too.
You can hang out. Well, she says she's from New Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl. So hey,
we're all Jersey girls. I didn't know you were a Jersey girl too.
Yes, I was born in Jersey. Even though my family tell me I grew up in Florida, I really can't claim Jersey. I'm like,
what part of Jersey?
It's on my birth certificate. I was born in Livingston, and my family lived in Maplewood and Newark.
Oh, somebody was on here from Maplewood a little earlier. Okay, but anyway, thank you, Miss Nita. So are there predispositions, and is it Are there predispositions, and are there is it hereditary?
Okay, so let's go with that. The easiest way I like to try to say is think about cancer. Someone that has cancer in your family, does that 100% mean that you're going to get cancer? But does that make you at a higher risk? Yes. Same thing with Alzheimer's. I believe, and don't quote me on it, but I believe it's like maybe a 4 or 5% chance that just because you have someone that has the APE4E gene, that their loved one will get it. Right. Does it, like I said, does it bring your risk level up? Of course it does, but it does not 100% mean that you're going to get it. So I have this conversation all the time with people, and they go, oh, okay, well, I want to go get genetic testing. You can get genetic testing, but what you're going to do with the information? Just because you have the gene, it does not mean that you're going to get it, but it definitely can make you aware. For some people, it might make them a little paranoid, because the easiest or the smallest thing where they might walk into a room and they forget, oh my God, I got this gene, I have Alzheimer's. That may not necessarily be the case. I'll be 47 next month, and I can tell you how many times I've walked in that kitchen and I was like, well, Lord, why did I come in this kitchen? I don't know. I walk out 5 minutes later. Oh, that's why I went in there. That's called normal aging. Think about when we were 10, 15, 20, we could probably go outside, run, play all day. Now at our seasoning ages, we're not doing that. Just like our body slows down, our brain slows down. It takes a little bit longer time for us to process information. That is a normal part of aging. The flip side of that is what I will say is you walk into the room in that kitchen and you leave and you cannot recall, you cannot remember why you went into that, and it never comes back. That's when we say, okay, we might have an issue. What I like to tell people is, when we talk about dementia, what dementia basically is saying to us is that there are some cognitive issues going on that are affecting a person's everyday life. We all forget from time to time, but is it really affecting everyday life? Yes, putting the keys in the freezer. I definitely would say, yeah, that is a clear telltale sign, definitely. Where someone, putting objects in places that they don't belong. The word retrieval, the word recall, that's also a big one. I get people all the time where they're having conversations. I talk all the time. I give lectures all the time. And many of you that do, as we're giving a lecture, we may forget the word that we want to say, but it comes right back to us. That's normal. We're talking about, I'm giving a lecture and, oh, I know what I want to say, but it's there, but I can't bring it out of me. That's when we're talking about, okay, we may have some cognitive issues. Another thing too that I want us to pay attention to, just because we're having cognitive issues does not always mean it's an Alzheimer's. There are a lot of things that go on with us that can cause us to have memory issues and cognitive issues. You could be having vitamin deficiencies. You could be having many strokes. And when we think about strokes, these are the silent strokes in your brain that you don't know about. You could be having fluid on your brain. Any untreated or undertreated mood disorder, people that are dealing with depression, anxiety, all of that does affect your memory. Counterindications with medications. Certain medications you all may be taking, and let's keep it real, our doctors aren't talking to each other. So you all are taking medication that may not work with each other. That's why when people come into the clinic, we have them bring all of their medications. Benzodiazepines are not good for long-term for memory. Sleeping medications, any of the Tylenol PMs, any of the Xanaxes, and we're talking about long-term use. Benadryls, all of that, it's not good long-term for memory. I hear all the time, oh, well, I can't sleep. Well, there's a trade-off. You can take this medication, but yes, it can and does affect your memory in the long term.
So, Miss Henry, did you have a question? You're muted. Okay.
I'm curious to find out if any research has been done in terms of a correlation with intelligence. I say that because in my circle of friends and family, I know 14 plus people who have had Alzheimer's or are going through it right now. And every single one of them was not only bright, they were brilliant. So I wondered, is there a connection, or has there been any research done on it?
I'm sure there has been some research done. I'm not the research guru, so I can't tell you, but what I can tell you this is so when we give this memory assessment, the memory assessment gives an additional point for anyone who has a 12th grade education and below. So there is correlation with the higher a person is educated, the I don't want to say not the less likely they would be able to develop an Alzheimer's, but it is masked a little bit better. We like to call it their cognitive reserve. So a person that, let's say, has a PhD, and I give them that memory assessment and they're going through and they're having memory concerns, their score may not be as low as a person that maybe only has a high school or below education. So education does play a role into it. So the more we're educated, that's why, we should be doing cognitive exercises every day, doing things that are mentally stimulating and challenging for our brain every day.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Ms. Henry. That was actually
I'm lost at his last name. Somebody help me. What was the brilliant brother from Charles was his first name. Any lawyer on here, tell me. Hester, are you on the call? What's his name? He was from Harvard, and he it was so hard to watch him lose his.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and I'm I can't think of his name.
It's Charles Ogletree.
Ogletree. Yeah, that was horrible to watch.
Yeah, he just died.
And he was a brilliant man. Yeah, right. Brilliant man. And we all remember B. Smith, how hard it was for her. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Henry. Do you have any other questions?
No.
I think this is your first time with us, is it? No? Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today.
So I see one of my favorite questions in the chat that I would like to address. It's from Fern. Explain the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. My favorite question. Okay.
And my question to you is going to be, I label them both in my my announcement as cognitive disorders. Is that incorrect? Is one memory? Okay. Go ahead.
So what dementia is an umbrella term, just like cancer. I always, because cancer has been out here, I always do an analogy with cancer. Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. So there are a lot of different forms of dementia. You can have vascular. So about 70 to 80% of dementias is an Alzheimer's presentation. So that's why we hear about that the most. The other 30%, the next leading cause is a vascular dementia. But there are a lot of different types of dementia. Frontotemporal dementia. Parkinson's disease has its own form of dementia. Lewy body dementia. For any of my sports fans, I love football. You all heard of CTE, correct? That is a form of dementia. So dementia has a lot of different things under it. And what dementia is telling us is that there is something cognitively wrong with the person. What type of dementia? That's when it comes to the different types of workups.
I'm going to be getting that paper, but wasn't for me.
Ms. Laverne, I hope I answered the question.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
I want to get, can we pin the lady that wants to talk about driving? Can we pin her up here? If she doesn't mind coming up.
Hi, it's me, Tracy.
You're on mute, Helen.
Oh, thank you. Tracy's here. Tracy, did you want to turn on your camera? You don't have to, but if you wish.
I did.
Oh, I did. Okay. Let me have you join us. Okay, there you go.
Hey, Tracy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
I love this because I can see everybody.
This is very informative for me. My husband has been dealing with this for like the last year, so he's still in the denial phases, and which means to me that like when I asked him questions about like his life, he thinks that I'm trying to say that he's going to die soon, and I'm just trying to get the information that he would want so that when the time comes that he doesn't remember, then I know what to do. And he's very resistant.
Okay, so my first question is, does he have a neurologist that he's seen that specializes in memory?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. In your question about driving is a hot button topic. When a person has Alzheimer's, remember it's a degenerative slow disease. So a lot of times, and it depends upon in our clinic how we kind of will gauge some things when we're doing that assessment, because the assessment looks at certain domains of cognitive functioning. There are certain things that we can look at and how they're scoring to be like, ooh, this person might be at high risk. I've never driven with a person, but we're looking at more for as high risk. What you can do is there is a program called Drive Able, DRIVEABLE. I will Google it, see if there is anyone that is near you that gives that assessment. And what it is, it's a computerized, non-biased evaluation, driving evaluation. And what it will do, it will come back and give you a report to let you know if your husband is at risk of an accident versus not. It also may say, okay, well, you know what? This person is good here, but maybe he needs to limit his driving. Because what happens with a person that is having the disease and driving, their reaction time is slower. And like I explain to my patients all the time, you may be a great driver, but you know, we got these millennials and these Z's out here and they like to text and drive. And your reaction may not be fast enough and an accident may happen. And I'm not sure where you are, but I'm in Florida. Florida, they like to sue down here. And if there's one thing in someone's medical record that says dementia, memory, oh, they're coming after you.
Oh, I see.
So
yeah, we're in California and he drives well, but even just the other day we're going to a concert and I had the navigation on for him and he missed the turn 3 times. So I'm trying to learn how to just be more patient with him. So I said, it's okay. There's 100 ways to get to the same place, but he just kept, I mean, he's driving good, but he's not paying attention to the directions.
Not knowing your husband, I'm just going to say that I will go get a driving evaluation, even though I get, and trust me, I understand. I've been driving since I've been 15. Driving is, like I said, one of those hot button topics. It's your independence. But when you look at the big scope of things, I always put safety first.
Right. Okay.
What?
Can you tell me the name of that driving thing again, please?
It's Drive and then ABLE.
Does it require the Dewan, does it require the cooperation of the patient?
Of course.
So if he's not, if
but that's when I would, for you, I always make myself the bad guy. I tell my caregivers, let me do it because you still have to go home. So what I would recommend for you is I would try to get his doctor on board with this and have it come as a recommendation from the doctor.
Can I? Hi, this is Diane. May I say something about that? That happened with my father, right? His friend kept saying, "Oh, your father has a problem," and you know, I went and had him tested. But you have to know your state laws. When we went and had him tested, when he told the doctor and he scheduled him to have an exam, the doctor automatically notified the state. And they withdrew his license. But after he did the test, he was fine. But he could not now, because it's digital, he could not pass the test and lost his driver's license. So you got to weigh that too.
Yeah, I think out of the 7 years that I've been doing this, I maybe had to call the state on maybe 5 patients.
Right, but the doctor did it automatically.
Well, this is if we tell a patient in our clinic, our recommendation is not for you to drive, we have about, I'm gonna say 98% compliance. We do, and they're like, yeah, they get it because it's safety. Yeah, a car is a weapon. You know, not only you hurting yourself, but you can hurt someone else. I've had some people that are adamant and tell me, no, I'm not going to stop driving, and those are the ones that I will call the state on.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
It
It
is.
is hard.
It is a very hard one.
Yeah.
I mean,
You never
and
be dating
also,
for it.
Tracy, you can be creative with some things. You can lose some keys. You can undo the battery. I mean, make the car not work. You got to be creative sometimes.
Yeah.
That is a very hard one. I experienced it with my grandmother, and I'm a community educator in the dementia field. But I tried to encourage my grandmother's doctor to tell her that she could not drive. He refused. A week later, my grandmother was driving around the city of Chicago for 4 hours, lost.
Wow.
Once that happened, then he was on board.
Yeah.
Fire your doctor. that wasn't a good doctor, because I mean, I'll be honest with you. If we have loved ones,
absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, if we have loved ones that come to us, and if they speak to us before we even get to an appointment, saying, "Hey, I'm concerned about my loved one driving," we listen to that because they're there. We've never driven with the person, and what I always love to do, I love to say, "Okay, well, you have grandkids. If they're do you feel comfortable with your husband driving your grandkids?" And if I get that pause and I get that no, they don't need to drive then.
Mm-hmm.
Because other people have grandkids and family members that are out on the road.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Tracy, good luck with that. You'll have to let us know how that turns out for you. And I'm sure you raise a question that other people on this call have to consider for
Tracy,
ourselves.
Can you email me? We have and I can send you this book. We have like I said, we have it's Florida has its things. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, but as it relates to my field and my profession, they are right on it. But email me, because I'll mail you out, and I can only do a hard copy because it's not electronic. But it's a book that talks about and I can email you some electronic stuff as it relates to now having this conversation on driving. So send me an email, and I definitely can send that to you to kind of give you some more support.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tracy. Miss Bay, you have a question?
Yeah. Did you call me before?
No. But she addressed your question in the chat, I thought. But if not,
you
had a question about short-term disability. I mean, short-term memory.
Yeah.
I
got a grandson getting ready to fly off to college, and everything is just going on around here. I just packed him a bottle of garlic. Like if you get sick, take one of these a day. And I'm trying to listen at the same time. But here's my dilemma. I am 69. I'll be 70 this year. I stay busy. I'm a businesswoman. I'm doing really good as far as business and everything. But here around the house, and this is happening daily, over and over. Like I said in the chat, I could go over. My routine is go over and turn the porch light on and lock the door. Before I get midway across the floor, did I lock the door? I could go in the kitchen and turn the oven off or turn it on. And before I could get midway across the floor, did I turn it on? And now my sight is starting to get blurry. So I got to go all the way back over to the appliance so I could see, all the way over back to the door so that I can see. But the thing about it, I've taken 500 milligrams of ginkgo biloba every day. I'm getting ready to start trying to learn a language because they said that helps keep the mind sharp. But I seem to be sharp on everything else. But in my personal lifestyle, it's beginning to worry me. Which the fact that I ordered the ginkgo biloba is an indicator. So I'm just wondering, is this normal aging, or is that some sign of something more serious?
Just from our conversation, I can't tell you, but the first thing I'm definitely going to recommend is that you go see a doctor that specializes in memory. I would definitely get a memory assessment. That to me, a memory assessment is stage 1.
Does ginkgo biloba help?
You want the truth?
I want the truth. Because that's what I was saying. I was like, I was like, I think this ginkgo biloba is making me lose my
Prevagen, fish oil. There, unfortunately, is no cure for dementia, Alzheimer's. The medications that have been FDA approved and we use in our clinic as a first-line defense, donepezil or Aricept, that is the first-line defense. That does not cure or bring back any type of memory. What our goal and our hopes is that it slows down your decline. So yeah, we get people all the time. And if you pay attention to that Prevagen commercial, and I'm pretty sure that ginkgo commercial, at the end, they're probably talking really, really, really fast. And what they're saying is it's not FDA.
No guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize is that the changes in the brain start 10 to 20 years before you see that first sign or symptom.
Yep.
Wow.
Which is why I say by maybe 35, we need to be getting these memory assessments.
Yeah. So what kind of brain act? Because people say you start doing crossword puzzles, Sudoku. Do you agree with those kinds of things?
Yeah, if you give me 2 seconds, I will.
Thank you, Miss Bay. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
So as I'm looking this up, someone did ask me about diet and nutrition. Ooh, yes. My favorite topic.
Yeah.
And as I told Helen,
Okay.
I am not a dietitian. I am not someone who studies food. I'm a foodie. I like food. However, working in the field that I work in and going through a weight loss journey on my own last year, I lost 30 pounds. I realized that I'm a foodie, but food really has to do with a lot as relates to our health. So yes, food has a lot to do with dementia. We eat, and I can keep it real because I'm on here with my sisters.
Yeah,
we eat a lot of foods we shouldn't eat. Did you all hear me a little bit ago when I talked about Alzheimer's being the most prevalent form of dementia, and after Alzheimer's was vascular dementia? That vascular dementia is coming from high blood pressure, diabetes.
Arteries.
Who has the highest level of high blood pressure and diabetes?
Yeah,
we do.
We do.
We do. Black people. And out of men and women, who do you think is more susceptible to get Alzheimer's? Men or women?
Yeah, us.
Women.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Stress.
I just love, I love to hear the answers to these questions. Stress, anybody else?
Because we're overweight.
You know what? It's so simple. And when I say this, y'all gonna be like, oh, really? It's simply because we live longer.
Oh.
So for Black women, and Helen and I had this discussion, just think about what I just told you. A Black person is more likely to, Blacks and Hispanics are more likely to develop an Alzheimer's or dementia than whites because of our diet. Us being Black women, because we're a woman, we're more susceptible or more at a higher risk than a man. So we got two things going for us. We're Black and we're a woman. So yes, diet definitely plays a major role. What we recommend in our clinic is something called the MIND diet, MIND. And if you give me a moment, I will pull that up. But those are foods that studies have shown that can definitely slow down neurodegenerative diseases, not just Alzheimer's, but like Parkinson's and things like that. There are a lot of different things that we can be doing as lifestyle changes. Forget about medications. We're just talking about lifestyle changes. And your question, Heather, why I keep want to call you Heather?
That's okay. It happens
Helen. No, I'm gonna get it right. Helen. I want to pull up these cognitive exercise examples. So, and you asked the question, does Sudoku and all of that? Definitely. Every day we should be doing things that are mentally stimulating and challenging for our brain. I'm going to
does reading count or no?
Yes, ma'am. So this here is my little cheat sheet that I give out to my my clients that come to me in the clinic. Yes, brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. it's mentally challenging to your brain, because for 47 years, my right hand does everything. Now, wait, you want to do this? You can't replace brain cells that are lost, but you can create. And that's what the mentally stimulating. I mean, something as easy as coloring. Every day we should be doing something. I know I heard one lady talk about learning a new language. That is also on my list. So this is just my little cheat sheet that I give people, that we should be doing things. Reading. I like to say that if you're an avid reader, although reading is good, but at that point in time, let's add something else to it. If you're not a reader, now you're adding reading, that's a good thing. But all of this is good. So we have, you have your diet and nutrition, which I want to pull up that Mind Diet so you can see it as well.
So I love when you and I were talking, and because when I first heard Dewan speak, I was skeptical, because she said that, you know, Black women are prone to Alzheimer's. And I was like, are we really? Because they always, when her and I were speaking,
they're always putting stuff on us.
Yeah, they always say everything Black. Well, I don't believe them. And one of the things, I think you said that we look good on the outside because of the melanin and all that, but on the inside we're a hot mess. And that's what makes this true. Because she said she shared that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, the biggest thing is our diet. And I think just think about, and I think I may be close to one of the youngest people on this call. I've seen some faces, but just think about just in our culture, how we grew up. Go back. You better eat everything on your plate. We are conditioned to, if I got a plate of food, I got to eat everything on this plate. Well, no, you don't. I know for me, because I don't cook. So when I go out to eat, the first thing they do when they bring that big plate of food, I say, ma'am, can you please bring me a to-go box? I cut my food automatically in half, and I'm taking the rest of it home. But those little things, we love sugar, and sugar is not our friend. We do need some form of carbohydrates, yes, but the amount of carbohydrates and what we're eating is not good for us, because what do carbohydrates do? They turn into sugar. So I'm going to share with you a copy of the Mind Diet so you all can kind of get what I'm talking about. You can see this?
Yeah, we see it.
So these are up top in the green. These are foods that I want you to eat. Have a good time. If you're allergic, don't eat them. But this is what we want to eat. These are the things that are good for us. Now, no one follows this diet at 100%, but just think about if you can start to incorporate this, maybe to say, you know what, I'm going to do this 5 days a week. And then the other 2, hey, have fun. But just a small change can do a lot for us. The foods down here in the red is what we want to try to avoid. Now, this is my spiel I say to my patients. I know this is what you all like, and I'm not saying you can't have it, but what we've done is we've done a suggested quantity in servings. Not only is this going to be good for your mind, but it's going to be good for your gut. It's going to be good for everything. I mean, think about it. I heard my pastor say today, he was so funny. Now, he was talking about, you know, we sitting here on high blood pressure medication, but we got, you know, all the food we know we shouldn't eat, but then we want to say, God, bless me for the nutrition of this food. We know we're not supposed to be eating this food. Right. So, like I said, I started this by saying, Dwan is a foodie. I like food. Food is everything to me. But I realized that I need to start eating for survival and not satisfaction. Because go ahead. It's more than just weight that we have to be concerned about now.
I was speaking to a friend last night. She was supposed to be on this call, but I don't see her. And she was saying just losing weight. She said you'd just be surprised the effects that it has on your body beyond losing weight. Like, you know, because I laugh. I say my hips are mad at me. They're like, girl, you know, you ain't supposed to be carrying all this weight. So yeah, but yeah, so that's good information. I know Lola is going to give us some advice on food, but Lola, Judy's hand was up first. Judy, go ahead. What's your question, babe?
Yeah, I have 2 quick ones. You mentioned the amyloid PET scan. Is that the test that shows you what level of plaque you have in your brain?
It will let you know if you have amyloid in your brain, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing that I had heard, and you could tell me if this is worth doing, is that the activity that actually excites your brain most is actually reading aloud, not just reading, but reading aloud. And the one that doesn't stimulate your brain, the one that stimulates your brain least is actually just sitting there and watching TV. So we probably
definitely
reading aloud.
Well, I don't know about the reading aloud, just reading. If you want to read aloud, great. But yes, watching TV all the time is not good. When I get patients that come into my clinic, that's one of the things that I go through with them. Tell me what your day looks like. Oh, I'm sitting at home watching TV 8 hours of the day. That's not good for brain cognitive stimulation. Not to say that you can't watch TV, because I watch TV, but if that's all you're doing, remember that the key thing is I want to be doing things that are stimulating and challenging for my brain. And it's also, you know, the what we're watching too, because it's some stuff out there. Everything that needs to be for your brain. I mean, you might watch an educational program. That's something that's different, but you're just sitting there just, you know, watching the reality shows all day. But that's mushing. That's all it is.
Thank you. What the old people call them, the soap opera. I don't even know if soap operas, do they still come on?
Some do. I was surprised.
Oh, the stories. That's what they call it.
Yes, I used to watch the stories with my mama. I mean, my grandma. I ain't gonna lie. She used to have me there watching Days of Our Lives and Another World. See how many of y'all remember Another World?
Yeah, Lola, go ahead. I know you want to tell us what we. Go ahead. She's gonna talk to us about food. Go ahead.
Lola,
I don't know what Lola wants, but she's gonna talk.
You know that's what I mean too. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, well, just to thank you so much for this presentation. I love it.
Welcome.
Now when it comes to activities that you need to do for Alzheimer's, I've read that anything that has to do with eye-hand coordination is what helps. That's why they say play the piano, learn to play the piano, or learn to play an instrument, because it has to do with eye-hand coordination. And gardening is also one of those things, eye-hand coordination, where you're using your hands and using your vision at the same time. They think that will help. So, some doctors, I mean, they refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes for a reason. So like all those things that you're not supposed to eat that might lead to diabetes also qualify for Alzheimer's. So those are things to watch out for. And when we think about soul food, and you can actually make soul food healthy. Mm-hmm. All of your food doesn't have to be boring. You can still make your soul food, you know, change some ingredients and don't add sugar. For instance, I never bake with sugar. I don't have sugar in my house. So I'll have to get creative. I'm making banana bread as we speak, and I have no sugar in it. You use as much banana, but okay, you haven't had my banana bread?
Well, Lola, I bet it's good. I'll take it.
I don't use sugar. You know what? I use dates. I will put dates in it, and the dates will melt into the thing, and it will be really sweet. And you use really ripe bananas, and you can make it without sugar. So, and I don't buy bread. That's my bread. I cut that, a few slices of that a day. I know what is in it. Whereas when you go to the shop, you buy their bread, look at all the ingredients in them, all kinds of chemicals. I don't know what they mean. So I don't buy bread from the store. And soda, I'm sorry. I don't want soda near me. I don't drink soda. If you just replace those things in your diet, I think you could go a long way. And that type of diet is really anti-inflammation type of diet is what we need. And what we call foods are not foods. I don't even call them foods. The Kentucky Fried Chicken, all this stuff with all kinds of chemicals, I don't refer to them as foods. And we need to start to tell our kids that that's not food, and get them real stuff that you can almost connect to where it grows from the ground. You're like, okay, that's food. But where they add other things, they're not food. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Lola. So I'm going to put us on gallery view so that if you have, I think DeJuan wants to see everybody. So I'm going to take us off the spotlight and put us on gallery view. And anybody who wants to turn on your camera, now is the time to do it. And if you have a question, please, we're going to wrap up because I don't want to take up all of Dawan's time. She's been to church this morning. She's not feeling 100%. And it's Sunday.
But
so.
look, this is one of my favorite topics, and to be able to come and speak to my people, I'm here for it. So if you got questions, I'm here.
She didn't hesitate when I asked, so I appreciate that. Are there any questions that anybody has? I'm trying to look at the questions that we put.
Yeah, let me go back through to see if
one of the things that I wanted to share, because you were talking about not trying to make people remember, not trying to make our loved ones remember. And I remember I shared with you a story that a woman who I knew as a child, I knew that she had a hip replacement or something. So I knew she was in the rehab for that. So I go to see her at the rehab, and she gets all excited when I get there, and she says, "Cha, guess who came to see me today?" And I said, "Who, Miss Pat?" And she was really excited. She said, "Helen Higginbotham," which of course is me. And I remember you saying, don't try to make them make sense of it. And I didn't. I just went along with it. And I said, really? And I just played it off. I don't know who she thought I was, but she was happy to have seen Helen. So I heard you say earlier that we shouldn't try to make people remember. Just, if they think just go along with it. So can you, and you gave a lot of good information about, picking up on pointers and following their cues and not being angry, because somebody had put in here that they wish they had seen this presentation before because they didn't think they handled their sister very well before she passed away. But, and how do we deal with my mother doesn't recognize me anymore? That's hard.
It is very hard. Like I said, it's being able to, hopefully as a caregiver or a care partner, you have a support system for yourself, because you're going to need to be able to express, my mom doesn't remember me. You're going to need to be able to get that out. And just understanding and getting to a point where you realize that it's not that she does not want to remember you, it's the disease and the disease process. It's hard, but because a lot of caregivers don't take care of themselves and don't have a support and don't and just go through the motions. So having your support system, because you can't go to your mom, you don't recognize me, because mom ain't gonna recognize you. So like I said, being able to just be open and honest with your feelings and speaking with someone. And I'm getting ready to put my LCSW hat on as a therapist. Get yourself a therapist. You need to be able to talk to someone. It's a myth in our community. What we need to go to therapy for? We got a lot we got to talk about. But any support that you can provide for yourself is what you're going to need, because unfortunately, if mom does not remember you, there's not anything you can do for her to remember you. She may have some gleams of sometimes where she might be able to, and I've seen that sometimes where they say, okay, well, some days, mom or dad are right on it, and then other days it's like this.
I have a quick question. Once a person is diagnosed with dementia, is it necessary for them to get repeated MRIs yearly or every 2 years just to see how far it's progressed?
Okay, well, let me cure a little myth. The MRI does not let you know if you have a dementia. It does not let you know if you have an Alzheimer's. The 100% true way for us to know if someone has Alzheimer's is with autopsy. But most of our patients are alive and well. Mm-hmm. So when you go get those PET imaging, what that does is it will show if a person has amyloid. When we send someone for imaging such as an MRI or a CT, it's not telling us about Alzheimer's or dementia. What we're looking for is looking for structural changes in the brain. Remember when I talked about, fluid on the brain, which is hydrocephalus, mini strokes. That's what we're looking for. So if a person is sending someone 4 MRIs every year, there may have been something that they saw as it relates to a structural change, and not to tell you if that person has Alzheimer's or dementia, because you can't see it on the MRI or CT.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So how do we deal with somebody, you know, because we've all had this, they ask you the same question over and over. And
hack your patience, Helen.
Oh yeah, I'm learning. But what I do is I'll answer it once, I'll answer it twice, and then I might even act like I don't hear them from then on. Or I have a wonderful friend right now, and she'll say, "Did I just ask you that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you did, but it's all good, you know." So like, what? Yeah. So is it okay to? What is your recommended response?
All of the above, because each person is going to be different. Depending upon what they're asking you, if there's a way that you can have tips and cues, like for example, if someone is saying, when do I go to the doctor? We got a big calendar maybe in the area. We can say, oh, hey, mom, come over here. Let me show you the calendar. This is the day we're going. And if they continue to ask you, hey, mom, come on, let's go on over to the calendar. So hopefully they will be like, oh, well, this calendar might be able to give me some answers. I just got a quick question. The ignoring piece, how did that go for you? Did they stop?
I'm thinking of my aunt. It was my aunt. And
did she stop asking?
No, but I just stopped.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So like I said, it is truly, and I actually have another presentation that I give that really goes to understanding and responding to dementia-related behaviors. And it really goes into each type of behavior and how you can kind of respond. So when it comes to repetitive, and I think I said it in my presentation, they're going to ask you questions. That's something that you just got to, I already know they're going to ask. And when they ask, I just got to take that deep breath and answer the question again. You just know it's going to be coming. It's not them. It's the disease process. They don't remember.
I had shared with you and the ladies on this call, many of them, an article on kinless, kinless adults or whatever. So do you find that there are people who don't have support systems, and what's happening with that person who doesn't have a support system, finds himself, and you know, and the other thing that we can get to, how do we get to the hard decision that we can't keep mom at home anymore? And that's hard for us, particularly as Black people, because we're told to keep them at home. So how do you walk people through that? And then how do you deal with people who don't have a support system to help them? What are the alternatives?
Well, and when I say this, remember, I'm speaking about here in my county for the resources that I know. We have a lot of great partners here. It's one agency that actually has a program called the Live Alone program. So for my patients who, because I have a lot of patients that are here, their family is someplace else, I refer them immediately to that program because that program wraps themselves around. I also recommend going to day centers. A lot of people think that, oh, okay, you're going to a day center, and it's day center where you have people kind of walking around, kind of like zombie mode. No. There are a lot of different aspects of day centers. My mom, who is 75 next year, does not have Alzheimer's or dementia, but her day center, they have a party. They partying every day. So you have those type of day centers, but she's getting that social interaction, which is important. She's getting that cognitive engagement every day. You know, she's meeting with people, she's talking with people. So she has all of that going on. And you have day centers that can go all the way through more of a therapeutic type, where you do have people that will need more assistance. Being involved and just wrapping yourself with those type of community resources is what I would try to push those people towards. Now, your next question as it relates to what do we do? My first question to all families, and I believe I asked Tracy this, or I stated to Tracy, safety trumps everything. I don't care what you think, safety. It's all about that person being safe. Can you keep mom or dad in your home safely? And if you cannot keep your mom and dad in the home safely, there are other alternatives. But not only that, let's take a step further. When we talk about communication, if you have someone in that early stage, let's have a conversation. Hey, mom, you know, if we were not able to maintain you in the home, how would you feel about having to go to a facility? Have those conversations early on when they're able to chime in. You never know. Mom may tell you, yeah, I'll go to a facility, or you know what? I don't want to be a burden. Let's start looking at facilities right now where I can let you know this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I think a lot of times, especially in our community and our culture, we like to keep things a secret from each other. No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it hey, let's speak. Because how are we going to be able to rectify a situation if we're not talking about it? It's like we're scared. We're scared of what the person's going to say or what the person's going to think. We have to open up our mouths and we have to be vocal about it. So that's how I would handle that situation.
Good point. Can I just see a show of hands, physically or using your electronic hand? How many of you are caretakers for family members with Alzheimer's? So I'm seeing 3. Okay. 3 electronic hands, 1. Okay, so that's 4. Yeah. Oh, 5. Yeah, quite a few. I mean, I figured less than I thought, but yeah. So okay, thank you everybody. So the other question that I have, and if you can mute, how many of you on here are concerned about Alzheimer or dementia for yourself? And if anybody wants to just unmute and share, please. I see even the one has her hands up and she's working on it.
Look, I got 2 strikes again. Well, no, I'm gonna say 1 strike because I'm gonna do everything I can to not have high blood pressure, diabetes. But I'm a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anybody else want to share what your concerns are and why, maybe?
Helen. I was so concerned that I asked my doctor to send me to a neurologist about 2 years ago because I was so forgetful at the time that I began to think that it was happening, and I had lost my father-in-law and both of them were extremely intelligent people. So I was really freaked out that was the beginning of Alzheimer's for me. Thankfully, things turned out well. I'm supposed to follow up this year, but we'll see.
Here's another question. How many on here had heard of a memory test before today? Janice, Miss Dr. Squire, Allison. Yeah, I had not until Diane. Oh, I had not heard of it. And what you're saying, Dewan, is that it should be a part of our annual physical. That's what past age 35 you recommend, right?
Yes, ma'am. And I know I saw a question earlier that talked about do doctors give. Like I said, there are a lot of different forms of memory assessment. What we use is the MOCA, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. You may hear the Mini Mental, the MMSE. So there are a lot of them. It just depends upon your doctor's office. I know that a lot of the primary care offices that I've come in contact with will maybe ask them 3 words or 5 words and then come back and ask them later. But I used to physically go into primary care offices and provide these memory assessments. But the deal is, you got to understand, if we aren't asking for it, they're not gonna give it to us.
I've never heard of it, and I'm 63.
That's because unfortunately brain health has not been at the forefront.
Wow,
right.
That's interesting.
Right. So
yes,
this
I'm
is
an
Diana.
occupational.
I was just going to say that I know about the memory test because of my father, but never thought it was something that I would be asking for myself every year. And a doctor never mentions it to you.
Yeah. And I'm an occupational therapist, and I asked long before my mom had real symptoms, and it was thought of like poo-poo. Oh, it's just regular aging. It's just regular aging. But, you know, as a professional, I could see it. And when it really started to express itself was after the COVID lockdown, when she had lost all her routines. And after her not having her routine, she couldn't bounce back. I was just telling my sister that the lockdown also saved her life. That's the 3 of us. That's mom and my sister over there. My sister is the caregiver, and but COVID, the lockdown also saved her life because she's needed to stop driving, and not being able to go out during COVID stopped that. But it also just, it caused some depression, lots of just lonely feelings. And right after COVID, we had to bring her to my sister's house. She couldn't live alone anymore.
And how drastic is that, Dewan, when we change our loved one's surroundings?
Extremely. You definitely brought up something. We never closed our clinic. We didn't do telehealth. We felt that it was very important for any patient safely to get to our clinic because of what we did. We would see them. I think when we were able to move around a little bit, we had from the first quarter, and I believe that was maybe like around the fourth quarter, I think I did the math, it was maybe like an 85% increase in people saying, wait a minute, something's going on with my loved one. And it probably was going on before, but because we were always so busy and they still were in that routine, no one noticed it. There are a lot of different lifestyle changes that we need to be incorporating, but I firmly believe that social engagement and interaction is at the top of the list of all of them. And that's my personal opinion. Because with that social engagement and interaction, all the other things can come into play. But having someone routine, especially someone who has cognitive issues, I go through with my my patients and caregivers in my clinic, is we develop a daily routine for them. The more you can keep their routine the same, the better it is. Just think about sometimes when you may have heard someone who possibly is having some type of memory issues, maybe go into the hospital and they're spiraling down. It's because they're out of their routine. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's very important.
Can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to your point about the more educated you are, the less it's diagnosed. My mom had every test, and she is not clinically diagnosed with anything because she passed every test with flying colors. But she's highly intelligent, college educated. So it's us that notices the difference in her. So even if you go and get someone tested and they say, oh, everything's cool and groovy, you have to know who you're dealing with. You can't just take what the doctor says, if that makes sense.
It does, because we have that, what we call that in our clinic is they have a high cognitive reserve. I cannot stress to you all. I know y'all love your primary care physician. I like mine too. She's cool. But when it comes to memory, you need to be seeing someone who specializes in memory issues. A general neurologist, no. Someone who specializes in it. If you got a foot problem, you're going to go see a podiatrist. So I want someone that specializes in it, because there have been so many times where I've heard people say, oh, I told my primary care physician that I was having memory issues and they just gave me donepezil. Well, did they do a workup? Did they figure anything out? No, we just don't want to take medication just to take medication. We need to know and understand what's going on. And for someone like your mom who has that high cognitive reserve, it's not just the testing piece of it, it's the interviewing, the everything we do with inside our clinic. Our clinic consists of my neurologist, my nurse practitioner, and me as a licensed clinical social worker, which is why I love what the state of Florida has done. We truly have a multidisciplinary team approach, because I'm not medical. So my doctor's dealing with this medical piece and everything else I have. And that's like vice versa. So he'll tell our patients all the time, Dewan is your best friend. Because at some point in time, medically, there's nothing else they can do. But socially and everything else is where I step in.
Thank you.
Ruthie, your hand is up. You have a question, dear?
Yes, they are, Judy. I agree with that.
What Judy said?
Yeah, I had a question. Now I'm trying to remember what it was.
Oh, Lord.
No, but seriously, though, yeah, I had noticed that I was having some memory problems, and I did mention it to my primary care. He said, oh, let's do like a brain, whatever. But it's interesting to hear that when you have that brain test, it's not going to pick that up necessarily. So it's very interesting to hear about the connection to high blood pressure and diabetes, which I have. So now I can go back and like look at it from a different standpoint. So this information is very invaluable to me, because and I was having memory to the point that it was bothering me. And I'm saying, is this aging or is this something else? So thank you so much for bringing up this important information.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing that.
Did you say your doctor recommended the memory test or you asked for it?
No, my doctor had me do a brain test to see whether anything was wrong with my brain. Okay. And they said, no, your brain is fine, but it's not the brain. I need to have a memory test, which I think is a little bit different. Yeah.
Ruthie's in Japan, Dewan, so she's dealing with a different medical system.
Okay, well, look, if you want to screen and give me a call, we can do it via Zoom.
You heard that, Ruthie? Ruthie?
Yeah, thank you so much.
And that goes for anyone. If you're not in my area, I'll be more than willing to do a assessment with you via Zoom.
All right, I think this has been extremely informative for all of us.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, timely. You know, I was like, what do we kick the year off with? So I think we're going to try and do something at least once a month on our health. And this is I know I've learned to. So I haven't had my physical yet, but you can rest. I guess I want a memory test, because you know what makes, you get to a certain age, every time you go to the doctor, they're like, have you fallen? Like, why do you keep asking me that? And because you're over 60, that's why. But but I have a friend who's on, her sister's on this call. I don't know if she's listening with her sister, but she used to always tell me, because she's a little older than me, don't never tell them you fell. So, they're not going to let you live alone anymore, So I think there's some reluctance on our parts to have certain things disclosed about ourselves. Is that right? And how do we handle it? Because once, there's this universal health record where, once it's a part of your record, it's a part of your record. So I don't know.
Oh, yes. And I want to say something, but I'm going to wait for you to stop recording before I say it.
Okay. So on that note, we're going to, first of all, let me thank you so much, Dewan, for showing up. Yes. And I'm so glad for everybody who showed up to hear this conversation. I apologize for I don't know what was going on with my desktop. I'll find out as soon as we get off of here. So sorry for the postponed delay. But I thank you all so much for coming and asking questions. And I hope everybody's walking away with something that you didn't know before. Certainly you have a new resource, and I appreciate you, Dewan, for making yourself available to people who aren't even in the area. So I definitely appreciate that. And I'm going to give you the last words if there's anything that you want to share.
This was magnificent.
First thing, I just want to say thank you for having me. When Helen contacted me and I read the name of her group, I was like, oh, this is something I need to be a part of, because I'm all about Black women. So I appreciate it. I educate every day, all day, but to be able to educate my own and my people is always a great thing for me. So again, thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Use me as a resource. You all have my contact information. Don't feel like, oh, I don't want to bother her. If you need something, just let me know, because I do know that this information, they're not giving it to us. So if we know somebody that has it, I'm here. I don't want you to think that you're bothering me.
Thank you
again.
This was wonderful.
Can you please post your information one more time?
Yeah, and we're going to stay online for a minute, but just for those of you who are regulars and know what we do and we sign off, can we just all unmute and do what we do? And then please stay on camera. Don't leave us, because Dewan's going to talk to us off record. So for those of you who are here, if it's your first time, please come again. You will be a part of my email list. If you do not want to be on it, just let me know. I swear I don't take it personal. Just say, take me off this list. And I will do that. But I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and we're here every Sunday at 4 o'clock with different topics. If you have a topic that you think is of interest, or if you just want to do a presentation, please let me know, because it takes a lot of pressure off of me. I appreciate it. And for those of you who are ready, can you all just come off mute and let's do our closing. When Black women gather,
amazing things happen.
Amazing things happen. That's our tagline. And on that note, I'm going to stop recording And we'll stay on for a few more minutes to hear from Dewan, and then we're going to say farewell.